Whew. All right, we are live, and like I said, it's just give it about a minute for people to come on and find us. And let me just thank you one more time for doing this. This is pretty awesome. Um, love the book. You said yourself you wasn't an author and didn't want anybody else to kind of write it for you. I love that you wrote it in your own words from your own experiences. Like you could choose what you wanted to edit and what you wanted in it, and it reads very well. I left a kick-ass review on Amazon. I was like, he wanted one, and he got one.
Thank you.
And I'll be adding the link for people to be able to purchase the book and whatnot after the live stream. But thank you again. God-based recovery is Trav. It's on the spot time. I'm here tonight with John Carter. He's the author of this book right here, Triggered to Change. It's pretty damn awesome, man. A life full of turbulence. And that word turbulence we'll talk about too, because that's got an extra meaning. I know you know what that means. I was kind of looking around there to see if I could see it, if I could see turbulence. And we'll talk all about that. He is, for all intents and purposes, an ex-mob enforcer. Took a shot to the head, man, and 97% chance should have taken him out, but God had other plans. Spent 90 days in a coma. Life didn't get immediately better after that, but he's here today to tell the full story in his own words. I don't want to take too many words out of his mouth. Just give that proper introduction. John, thank you so much for doing this, and I'm going to pray us in and hand it over to you. For you to go through your story in your own words, and then I'm going to go back and ask you a bunch of questions and go a little bit more in depth with this, if you will. Heavenly Father, I just want to give you all the praise and glory, and just let you know how grateful I am for you to be having me here with John today to hear his testimony, Lord, and most importantly to share this out to at least one person that might receive some hope from it, some confidence to possibly turn the page, and more importantly, turn to you and improve their life, improve their faith for their families and their community. Just thank you for having me here with John, and thank you for looking over him and being there with him today. I ask you to bless his household, all of his friends and family. Everybody that's going to be watching this, just please keep protecting them and guiding them, Lord, providing for them, leading the way. And I just want to thank you for always using me in spite of me and always making a way even when I get in your way. And I say this prayer in the Holy Son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right, everybody. Mr. John Carter. If you want to go ahead and take us through this thing, I'd be glad to hear it. And I thank you once again.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. Thanks for listening. I had a very unconventional childhood. My father was in the mob, the mafia, organized crime, how do you say it? And I love my dad. I look up to him, I praise him, I worshipped him. He was the best father you could have. He was awesome. Went to all my ball games. He was very, very attentive to me. So I want to be like him. And when he passed away, I went to live with him. But I was not his size. I was not cut up for it. So immediately, I found myself in a world of trouble. This man, instead of paying a gambling debt he owed, decided to attempt to murder me and shoot me in the back of the head. But I survived that. And it was a long road of recovery. I spent the first 90 days in a coma. And I want to tell you guys about the story about being in a coma. I was in this room in a hospital, but I had no idea why I was there. remember, this is a dream. But wasn't like a dream that you forget. It was like a vivid, real dream. Like it was like a second life. It was unbelievable. And I was in the hospital and I was taken to a bed. And there was about 100 patients, and I didn't know any of them. And the dream was crazy, and I wrote all about it in my book. But the midst of this dream was we had a swimming race every day. They got out of bed and they got to the pool. And the winner of that race got to go home. And remember, I was in this club for 90 days, and I kept losing. This is the first time ever I said in my life. I said, I quit. I give up. I'm not swimming no more. It hurt so bad. I said, that's it. That night, an old man, who I had no idea, no recollection who it was, sat in my bed. He said, John, you're not going to quit. You're not giving up. And I'm going to coach you. I'm going to help you. For days, he took me down to the pool and trained me. I couldn't believe he trained me. And now it's the morning of the big race. Gets me unchained, gets me down to the pool. I remember him giving me this big pep talk. And I swim like a bat out of hell. I hit the wall. And I woke. That was the dream. It was the craziest part of the story. That was incredible. But anyway, so I did that 9 days in the coma. When I woke up, I did another 6 months in the hospital. And then I was released. And this is where depression really set in. And alcoholism took over, and drugs. This is where my life. And in the hospital, I was around people. I felt like I could do it. Now I get home, and I go to a basement apartment, and I'm by myself, sitting in a wheelchair, watching TV. I just started eating, and I added alcohol to it. And before I knew it, I was 300 pounds, sitting in a wheelchair. Now I started snorting cocaine. And I could not afford my addiction. It was out of hand. And my social security was not covering my habit. So my big bright idea is that after just getting shot in the head was to become a drug dealer. So I've become a drug dealer. I'm sitting in my wheelchair dealing drugs. But the police don't find me till Newton. And boom, they kick in my door. They come barreling in. I remember looking at them. Whew, I felt the relief. And I remember the cop looking at me, and I was smiling. And he says, what are you laughing at? You're in some serious trouble here. I said, sir, you just don't understand. This is a good thing that's happening right now. So they arrest me. I get bailed out. Now I remember sitting in the parking lot of the police station. I had no money. I had no drugs. I had nowhere to go. I was a broken soul. My brother-in-law, who was with me, who bailed me out of jail, said, you have to start with getting sober. At this time, I had no other options. I said, sure, okay. He took me to a detox. And after a few days of detox, I started clearing up, and I'm around counselors and people. I started feeling good. I said, wow, I like this. But as you know, Trav, you have to go, if you want your recovery to continue inpatient, you go on to a halfway house. But I had to be interviewed for a halfway house. So I remember going into a halfway house. I rolled in my wheelchair. I rolled in, and there she was. She walked in. She was stumbling, and I could tell there was something wrong. And she sat down, and she proceeded to tell me her story, how she was in a cocaine And there was an accident or something with her head, and she almost died. And she was in a wheelchair for a long time. And this was back in the 80s. And now this woman is the executive director of the Apple. So right away, I'm looking at her. She told me she got out of that wheelchair. Trav, that wheelchair was prison. It was hell. When she told me she got out of it, I looked at her. I couldn't believe she did this. I said, I couldn't believe. Trav, she was glowing. She was happy. She was smiling. I said, oh my goodness, I love this. I want this. So Trav, she became my angel. She was like every word she said, I did not just whatever. So just because you get sober doesn't mean you let everything in your life disappears. I still had this black cloud of a drug case hanging over my head. Now I'm about 8 months sober. I've been in the house for 8 months. I have worked with a poor dad. He dragged me to court. I remember blowing up in front of the judge of no wheelchair still. And I'm saying to myself, well, I'm here with Deb. I'm sober. This is my first offense. I'm in a wheelchair. This judge is definitely not leaning to him. He looked down at me and he said, Mr. Carter, he said, we are not going to discriminate in the courtroom. You will get the same sentence any drug drug gets. And he gave me 10 years. I remember at this junction, I was so mad, so upset. But that all changed. That all changed. I'll get into that. But at this point, I was so angry. This guy is going to put me in a wheelchair, put me in a state prison. I was so angry. But Deb said to me, she said, John, a lot of people in your shoes would run. She said, face your fears. I'm here with you. You're not alone. You can do this. Face your fears. And like I told you, Tab, that was God to me. So it's a sure thing. Off the prison I went. Off the prison I went. And I thought I was a big tough enforcer. Trav, that big metal door slammed behind me. I was in a cell no bigger than your bathroom. I'm looking at 10 years now. I'm saying, what? Trav, I broke down like a baby and I cried and I cried and I cried. The guy next to me, I remember him saying to me, shut up. Don't let them hear you cry. Don't let them hear you. The next morning, Trav, and this is where fitness came into my life. The next morning, 3 guys into my cell. I said, oh, well, remember, my dad was in that field. So they said, we're friends with your dad. And we're here to help you. And they said, we're going to start with getting rid of that wheelchair. I said, what are you talking about? Me. They said, not here, you know. We don't care if we have to tell you you're not using it. For months, they took me to the prison gym. They trained me. I was getting stronger and stronger using that wheelchair less and less. It was unbelievable. And who thought 3 convicts would have taught me this lesson? Now I'm sitting in my cell alone. I always felt through my whole life alone, even if I was in a room filled with people alone. Now I'm in this little cell, I'm really alone. I'm happy. I feel myself getting stronger mentally. I did some research, and I learned about how the endorphins get released and you start feeling good. And it was unbelievable. So, but now, recidivism in prison is rampant. And I was naive. This is my first time. I didn't know too much. You know, but I would see this guy, and then all of a sudden I didn't see him anymore. And then a few months later, I see him again. You know, what happened? Where'd you go? He said, oh, They want me out on parole. I don't understand. He said, they let me out. I ended up using drugs and come back to prison. And he smiles at me. And in prison, you don't want to run your life. I wasn't in the position to make it. I was. So I never look at him. I'm saying in my mind, you idiot. What you do? I said, they let you out of this wall. They let you out of here, and you want to do drugs, and you came back, and you smile about it. I would be under my cot crying for years. Uh, so I said to myself, I went back to myself and I said, Dad, my dad taught me a lot of lessons. And I put them in this book, a lot of lessons. And I remember looking up and I'm praying, talking to my dad, and saying, Dad, please help me here. I don't want this. I don't want my life. I don't want to become, I want to be good. And I remember instantly a lesson taught me, fail to plan, plan to fail. Wow. I said, so I made a plan. And I called Deb from the half hour. And she says, I'm waiting for this phone call. Of course you can come back here. You're not alone. We're here to help you. So, and thank God I did, Chad. Thank God, because I got released with $100 and a bus ticket. If I got on that bus and went back home, I wouldn't be here right now talking to you. I'd be lucky if I made it back to jail. Lucky. And thank God, because now, because I took that right, I went to Deb, went to a half house, and to influence society. And this is back in 2001. I went to jail in 1994. This is 2001. And thank God, because now I'm a single dad. I have my son. I have my own business now. I'm a personal trainer. I knew that was my passion from the guys in prison. They taught me about fitness. So I get to train to inspire somebody with because my gym is a private one-on-one gym. My clients I get to work with one-on-one and inspire them mentally and physically. It's unbelievable to see what they can do. And the reason why let me tell you the reason why I wrote this book, Triggered the Change. I had my own business, and I didn't want to tell somebody, my story wasn't out yet. I didn't tell anybody I was shot in the head, or I was drug addict. I thought, because I own my own business, I don't want to meet somebody and say, you know, I was a drug dealer, I was a prisoner, I was shot, but John, my gym. It's run. So I came up with a story, but I didn't want to lie. So I said, I was shot in the head in a hunting accident. And it was kind of true because I was shot in the head, and the only part I just didn't tell him I was the one being hunted. So, he was hunting me. So that that's what that is. But and she said to me, and I met this client now. I'm training. When you're training with a client 3 times a week, you build a rapport with them. So I started to trust her. And I was divulging a little bit more of my story. And finally she said, oh my God, she said, I thought you were just in a car accident. I had no idea about this. She said, you have to do a TED Talk. And she had the connection. I remember going in to the interview and I was talking, and then I said to her on the way out, I said, Karen, what did you get me involved with? There was no way I could do this. It was so hard. There was no, and she said, John, you're not alone, and I'll coach you. She came to my gym. I've had too much help from small other control, but she would come to my gym for months and trained me how to do a TikTok and got a story together. And Crab, I got a standing ovation doing my TikTok. First time ever talking. It felt like I was on that football field, you know. Like that adrenaline was rushing through me. I was so, I said, I have to tell my story. You know. So that's why I booked my mind. There you go, buddy. There you go, buddy.
That was a good rundown, John. Just that in and of itself is powerful, and inspirational. Um, I just let me go back over everything with some questions. Let's let's dig a little deeper on this. You want to?
You got it, boss.
Um, man, it was awesome hearing it from you live. I love the passion that you still have with it and always will. Um, just kind of, I mean, starting back over like in a timeline form. And you know, you started off talking about your dad. What was some of his best qualities, best traits, and the things that you loved and admired him for? And also, um, if you can, like, what exactly was his role? How up the ranks was he in that mafia family? It's a question I have to ask.
Well, my father's traits, and my father was a family. I mean, he loved his family. His sons, he had four sons and a daughter. And, you know, for example, like they would supper at my house 7 nights a week. My grandparents, his parents, lived right next door to us, 2 houses down. And every night there was supper at my table, 9 of us. My parents, my grandparents, and us five. Every single night. If you weren't at that table, you were in big trouble. You didn't want to be on my dad's shit list. He had a shit list, and if you made that list, you didn't want to do it. So, and something was ours. Was ours. Talking with everybody. Just, you know, because I'm Lebanese and I grew up in an Italian neighborhood, so we had the best of both worlds. The best food, and just family, you know. And like my father never missed my ball games. Never, and we had a farm down the street. My parents owned the farm, and we were around horses and all kinds of animals. And I would go horseback ride with my father for hours. Hours, just me and him. Me and him would go hunting because my father was a hunter. He would hunt with a bow and arrow, and we would walk, you know, into Canada. Just walked in the woods together, talking. Just a great bond. And so that's why when he died, I even on my boat, I was his favorite. I was. I was a sporting person. I was a very good athlete. He loved that. He missed my ball games. Would brag about me, he, and he let that be known. And that's just the way it was. My father was one hell of a man. And
He
uh, 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 when you talk about ranks, my father was well liked by a lot of families. Uh, he was more more involved with the front family where I'm the patriarchal family. You know, I was not. I was just a wannabe gangster. No, I was a legend in my own mind. I was not. My father, and my grandfather were more serious. I
yeah.
was just a wannabe.
Um and um I'm not gonna ask you to name the family. I think I found out, but that's neither here nor there. Um he never brought his work home with him though. Like when he was
No,
home, he was a
that's
family man.
that's one thing about my father, Trap. He shielded us of that life. So we didn't. I didn't know what he did. You know, like for example, when I was younger, I was an entrepreneur. all the time. And I watched my father, but I didn't realize that he was doing little things. But I knew that he was hanging around with a crew.
Yeah.
So I put it together. He said, wow. And we owned the whole neighborhood of shoveling driveways. I'll tell you, me and I had three brothers, and I had a few friends. We, we would shovel into all the driveways. We would do it because we didn't know he was doing a little thing. We just, that aspect of it was working for him.
And
And
no, and nobody was going to come into your neighborhood and start shoveling driveways, huh?
exactly, we owned it. Hey, seriously, I had more money back in the day. I had more money
I
at
laughed when I read that part.
a Catholic high school. I was a hoodlum, but I was a good hoodlum, if there was such a thing. So, but the nuns in my Catholic school were very mean, and you didn't want a detention with a nun. You got to have a root canal to have a detention with a nun. So in every class, you needed a pen, a pencil, and a ruler, or you got a detention. So me and my friends, we we would pickpocket other people. We'd have bags full of pens and pencils and rulers in class. And when they went to go get them and had them, they were going to get detention. I would rent them out. I would have a line at my desk with people renting their pens back. I was a little hoodlum.
But I mean, smart. You were very economically aware, even at that age.
I did. I hustled. I hustled.
Um, the last question I had really about your dad was you mentioned, he served some prison time. He was eventually arrested, being in that lifestyle, that occupation. Um, what was his charge and how long did he serve?
It was a bad time. My father went into prison healthy. I was 18. It was a very, very hard time. And my dad, he had loan sharking and gambling and racketeering, those charges, um, the RICO Act, and several guys went to prison. And my father went to prison healthy. He had just gotten a checkup. And about a year later, he was terminally ill with colon cancer. And it took about 6 months, but we got him pardoned and he came home. And he died at my house with us. We didn't want hospice. My mother learned how to do everything, and we had a nice family, and we did it. We watched my father die because that's that really got my drug addiction. I didn't know how to handle it. I was lost.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, there's several questions that's related to that, and a promise I think that you made to him in his last days. I think you've really kept from what I've read, and we'll get to that in a little while. But um, let me go back to let me ask this. You mentioned that dream you had, shot trying to collect some money. Was not expecting that. That still ended up playing such a pivotal role in the way your life's turned out. Not everybody needs to take a shot to the head, but the course of your life obviously changed from that moment on. Can you maybe take us through, like, as best you can, when you woke up from that coma, your initial reaction, emotions, feelings, seeing family, um, how did that moment feel to you?
Trav, I will call that. Oh my goodness, my head, my head was ringing. It sounded like a fire alarm inside my head. And I had all my family around me because now my eyes opened. Like my mom is there, my brother's there. And they want this, John. And I can't move. I can't respond to them, but I'm totally aware I don't know what happened to me. I'm thinking I was mugged. That's what I thought. I thought I was cracked in the back of the head. I really didn't know what happened. And they're screaming out. I'm like, please, just shut up. My head is ringing like leave me alone. And from there, I was able to stop moving my right arm a little bit because I was shot behind my head here on the right side,
Yeah.
and that controls your left side of your body. So I was completely paralyzed. But my right side came back a lot quicker. In the hospital, I couldn't move my left side at all. I couldn't move my hand, nothing. I couldn't move my arm, anything.
And, I mean, your memory came back as to like what really got you in that bed. Like you started having.
My memory is right there. And I'll tell you a story about that when I was in the hospital. See, your memory, the back of your head, the back of your brain is more your functional. Your function. The front part of your brain is your memory. And I was in the hospital. I can remember I was in my bed. I couldn't move. And my roommate, he was, I think, like 19, and he was in a van accident. He was in the back of the van and got into an accident. And he went through the front window. The poor kid. His head was barely damaged. But the point is, he could get up and could move. He didn't know who he was. He didn't know who his mother was. He didn't know who anybody was. He didn't know why he was wrong. And I can remember laying in my bed. I'm fucked. I know this. But how do you work on something that you don't know that's broken? He was broke. I don't know if it came back to him. I don't know if that comes back. But I knew I could. I work. My right arm was already coming back. I knew I could do it. My father always taught me, do not give up. Fight, do not give up. And that's what I did.
You take us through the rehab and how that's especially a particular part of the rehabilitation and how that kind of related to that what almost seems like to you maybe even still today 3-month straight dream, and how long of a road to recovery that was.
Now, in my dream, I talk about the pool. Winning the race got low, and you got to go home. My whole childhood, I was on a swimming team. I was on a swimming team my whole life. And I remember I was always on it for like 5 years. And this is where my father taught me not to quit. And this is how I relate this into my dream and then after my dream. My father, I was on the swimming team. I was about 12, and I was already on it for 5 years. And it was a very grueling, demanding sport. You had to be in the pool at 5 in the morning. And now I'm starting to hang around with my friends. I don't want to do it no more. I said, Dad, I'm going to quit swimming. He said, oh, what are you injured? You hurt yourself? I said, no, I just don't want to do it no more. He said, that's BS, he said. So I'm not going to quit. You are not going to quit. You gave them your commitment. You are not quitting on them. If you don't want to do it next year, don't sign up for it. That's on you. But you are not quitting in the middle of the season. And I remember him teaching me that. And so that's why I believe the dream, the swimming part of the dream was there because of my challenge. Now I'm in rehab. And they said, we're going to start you on aqua therapy. And I still can't talk. I'm looking at her, and I'm trying, I'm mumbling, I can talk a little bit, but you can't understand me. It sounds like a lawnmower. And I'm trying to explain to them what just happened. They were like, yeah. They kept me in the pool.
They shove you in.
It was unbelievable. But aqua therapy is what saved my life. Because
I mean, you had to be. I don't want to get caught up with too many questions. I got so many, but I mean, that had to be a moment, I would think, for you, when they told you about the aqua therapy, because you knew the dream, you had the background of swimming. So that had to give you a little bit of like, okay, yeah, there we go. It's something. And it's a big distraction from being in the bed. So that had to give you some confidence moving forward to be like, all right, this will come to pass eventually, and I'm going to get better.
Dude, that was so at the front of my brain. I knew this is a great thing. I was excited about this.
Yeah.
But trying to explain to them about my dream. Oh my God. They're like, yeah, okay. On the speech therapy, in my brain, like even now, I think I sound crystal clear. And I sometimes I'm sure some of you can't understand what I'm saying. So I was in speech therapy and I'm talking and she's recording it all. And I think I saw crystal clear. I said, how come this woman not understand what I'm saying? And she pressed play and I couldn't understand what it was. I was like, oh my God. So that's why I'm very cautious of trying not to really get going. Or when I get excited, I start really. So you can't understand this time, let me know.
Right. Well, I mean, eventually you said, I think you were there about 6 more months, you get out, but, depression hit after that, the release from the hospital. Then you were living in I think the basement of your sister's, and I just started kind of dealing with that depression with, some addictions, food, pot, cocaine, and that led you to becoming a dealer, which kind of goes back to how your mindset was previously, and even in school, being an entrepreneur. Well, that's drug dealing too. Probably got addicted to the lifestyle a little bit. I just kept living like this for a while, making or selling more and dealing more. Eventually, you were you were under surveillance, and explain why you didn't care about being watched, after this whole length of time.
God, they told me, I had friends that would come and tell me, you're being watched. They know everything about my my answer is I don't care. What am I gonna do? I was broken. I'm not gonna stop using drugs. It's the only thing that's making me happy, making me being able to get up and do things. I said I'm not gonna stop this. I love the lifestyle. I love the way it was making me feel. And I did try to stop them once, and for that day, 2 days I went without using it. I said no,
Been-
I don't know way. I didn't know. It was not for me.
They, I mean, you ended up getting arrested. Then they ended up, wanting you to take a deal. You just like, no. I mean, that probably would have made a lot of stuff worse.
I
Um,
have to. I did not have to do one day.
uh,
The cop sat down with me and they said, that I found money in my apartment. They said, wear this wire and take this money and pick up like I always do. They said, never mind go to jail. They said, we won't even arrest you tonight. You won't get arrested. You won't leave here. And I said, I said, sir, I said, I get shot in my head on the one side. I don't need any legal, please. I'll do my time. Now, I knew that was one thing my father would have really, really, really been disgusted with
sure.
if I would turn.
Thanks.
Also told me, you want to be a man, you want to do things, pay the consequences. That way, if when you do them, you know the consequences. You're going to pay them. If you choose to do them.
Um, Eventually, we're going to talk about the Granada house and where you met this very special person in your life. To help you with many things. Who shares the same name with my wife.
Right.
And yeah, there's some other similarities there as well. I call her my living angel.
Oh,
She's, definitely knows what it's like to
Trav,
beat a wheelchair and stuff. So I thought she
Deb,
was,
Deb wrote the foreword in my book.
oh yeah.
I, I mean, I met her. I met her back in 1994. She's retired now, and I love her. I'm in touch with her all the time. I love her. She wrote the foreword in my book.
You think she's
She's
got
a
a story herself to share?
wonderful person.
Oh man. Well, just take us through your first experience at Granada and meeting and Deb and how she helped you with your addiction, and also if you could, I'm kind of throwing a few of these together, but also how a judge did you a favor that didn't seem like one at the time.
I'll let you that one right now. The judge gave me 10 years. When I seen that recidivism, and I seen people coming in and out, I said, you know what? I said, he did me a favor. I would have never seen this a year ago. What if he gave me a short sentence? I would have never seen this. I would have been in and out of jail my whole life. He did me a favor. I, Trav, actually, I wrote that judge a letter from prison. He actually wrote me back. I couldn't believe it. Could not believe this. I was so thankful for him. He passed away now. He was like 90 back then. He's gone now. But I actually seen some of the cops that arrested me. No, some of the cops that arrested me were friends of my dad. I mean, I knew I was a little kid. I didn't know that I knew who they were, but I. So I see him at the gym one day. I was just going to work out, and I walked up to him. And I'm a pretty good person to gym to work out. And I seen him. And I walked up to him, and I explained to him who I was, and I thanked him. And we sat down for at least a half hour talking. Oh, so they did me a favor. What they did to me. They did. I was dealing drugs. You know, oh, you know, learning lives. I've had my youngest and my oldest both passed away of overdoses. Now, I'll just tell you a story about my oldest brother when I was in prison. My oldest brother was a heroin addict, and he was sober for like 5 years. So when I went to prison, he was sober. And I remember my mom coming up with John. My mom would come visit me. She said, "John, your brother is doing drugs again with you. He's bad. You need to talk to him." So that night, I got on the phone with him. I said, "George, we can get you help." God, I still had my connections with Deb. I had a lot of connections. I could have done him. I said, "George, I can get you to a detox right now tonight." And he said to me, he said, he said, "I've worked. I have a lot of things to wrap up. I got this. He said, "I can do it next week." God, that was the last time I talked to him. And I got a call the next day that my brother had a heroin overdose. And on Mother's Day, hi, Ma. And then my youngest brother, about 3 years ago, I'm sorry, 3 years ago, he had a fentanyl overdose. And now, Trav, last week, as you know, I lost my third last brother of heart failure. Lost some kid, worked his whole life at UPS, saved all his money, had a great retirement set up, all gone. And, it's very sad, but Trav, my parents had 4 sons. The last son, his breathing got shot in his fucking head. It makes sense of that. But so I know, I knew my story needs to get out there, help, but now I know there's a mission, there's a purpose here. No, there's a mission. People don't have to die of drugs. People can get sober, and and I gotta thank you for this because this is what keeps me sober. You know, I witnessed a lot of people relapsing, and I'll tell you a story. My roommate when I got out of prison went to Lapras, and then from Lapras I got a roommate, and he was sober for like 5 years, and he relapsed, and he passed away of heroin. He had an overdose. But my point is here: why? Why? Why did you get everything back? You let me go. Why did you give it all back? You know, everything he gained, he lost. He lost in a month. Everything it took him 5 years to gain. His kids, his family, his people who trust him again. Months, months gone. Try to get it back now. Gone. You know how you gonna have to work? But my point is, like I said, why? And Dad would always tell me, John, don't ever forget. Always keep coming and don't forget. By telling your story, by going on commitments, before I started doing things like this, like I still go on commitments. I love talking to guys and girls and detox that are struggling, that are stay sober, just to show them you can do this. If I can do this, I was sitting where you are in a wheelchair. You know? So you can do this. You can do this. And don't ever forget. So by telling your story, you don't forget. If you stop telling your story, by little, you forget. It wasn't that bad. I can have that one drink. I can go on. It wasn't that bad. So you forget. Trust me. I'm not gonna forget my story. I love talking to people. I know this will keep me sober. I know that one of you out there is gonna hear it, and you're not gonna go drink it tonight. And you're gonna you're gonna put your foot down. You're not gonna give up, and you're gonna fight. Because that's what this is, God.
Um, I think I have a really selfish question here, John, and I don't know if it's one that could be answered, but I mean, considering how you described your dad and how much of a family man he was, and had everybody on the dinner table all the time, was always at the baseball games, was very supportive. Um, Drugs don't care about none of that. So my thought would be like, well, how could two brothers, die from overdose? Another one had his addictions. I mean, how do you think both your brothers that passed from overdoses, how they ended up going down those paths?
You know, Trav, my father hated drugs. My father had nothing to do with drugs. My father hated him. And when my oldest brother started using heroin, I remember when I was a kid. My father, this is the first time I seen my father cry. My father could control and help everybody. Everybody in the neighborhood would come to my dad. My father could help anybody. This is one problem he could not fix. He sent him to rehab after rehab after rehab. There was nothing fixing my brother. God rest his soul. You know? And it, back in the day, back in the 80s, it was just you know, when I was in high school, when I first started my freshman and sophomore year, I was on the honor roll. I was the captain of my team. I was a jock. But then I started liking hippies a little bit. The kids that smoked the pot. And I got attracted to that. And before you know it, I wasn't a jock anymore. And by my junior year, I was flunked out of school. Okay? That's how bad it was. That's how bad things got on me. And that's when my father was dying and going to prison. Oh, it was a horrible time in my life. And I don't, I just don't know the answer why. It's just what it is.
Wow.
And but I gotta tell you this one thing about, he went to a ball game. Well, we had a farm. We had a farm. My parents owned the farm. And I've been around animals my whole life. So I know that's where the love came from. I have two great things service dogs. I gotta tell you this. I volunteer for a charity. It's called Mobility Dames of New England. Previously called Service Dog Park. We just changed our name. We raise, train, and donate Great Danes for mobility impaired. It's a great, great charity. And the proceeds from my book are helping Mobility Days of New England. So that's a great charity. I see these people change lives. It's unbelievable.
It's a wonderful organization. There needs to be more of them. And I got several questions about both of those wonderful animals of yours, friends of yours. Um, how how did do you give credit to Deb overall for like helping you put down drugs and alcohol and everything? I mean, for good. And I mean, how many? I haven't even asked you. Like, how many years has it been clean and sober?
Trav, I got sober October 15th, 1994, and I never looked back, thank God. And I'll tell you, with Dad, she saved my life. The first time I bet we had to go out twice. Before prison and after prison. Both before prison, I was in a wheelchair. I was scared. I had just been arrested. I felt comfortable with Deb. She was like my hand. She put her in it. Now I got out of prison. I'm off. I can walk. I'm 7 years sober. I know everything. Now everything Deb says isn't gold. It's maybe I'll listen, maybe I won't. She said things, and this is where I know I broke through, and I was gonna say sober. Deb said to me, she said, you're not allowed to go home to Worcester, where I'm from, without support, without your sponsor, without support. You can't do that. So I said, yeah. Well, I do. There I go, right after Worcester, right back on over to Deb. But anyway, I met my friend's house. This is someplace I would never be if I had a sponsor. So I would never let me be there. I mean, you find out kill yourself, but they don't know what sober's about. So he brought out cocaine right in front of me, but for the grace of God, I did not use it. I don't know what picked me up out of that room and got me back on the car to get me all the way back to Boston. I don't know what it was. I remember we had a meeting, a house meeting that night. Deb and the whole people of the house. And it was my turn to share. I broke down like a bubbling baby. I couldn't catch myself crying. Which is what I just went through. I went on and on and on. And Deb says to me, she says, after I calmed down, she says, this is why. I wouldn't recommend that again, she said. And this is why you can stay sober. You have a chance. I'll tell you another thing, Trav. Uh, we're in that meeting, and she says, everybody in this room that wants to stay sober, raise your hand. There's like 32 of us, and of course, everybody raised their hand. So now the truth is, she said, now the facts are, one of you is going to stay sober. One of you is going to do this, because that's what the odds are. Now, I go back to the good I have regularly, and I remember Dad taking out the family portrait of when I was there back in 94. Dead, prison, dead. All of them.
Wow.
This drug takes from us. And we don't have to let it. We do not have to let it. We can turn the table. On the table, my friend.
Man. This comes a little bit after that second stay at Granada House. Talk about Harvard Square. How grateful you are for that business area, and ultimately, it leading to your first job after prison, after the sober living house.
Oh, it's unbelievable. At the house, it's a working house. You have to have a job. You have to, it's a get well job, so to say. Nothing strenuous, nothing. So I remember I went out looking down Harvard Square. It's a very business oriented area of Cambridge, Mass. And I got my first job selling newspapers and magazines standing on the street corner. I was 32 years old, making $7 an hour, and I was so grateful, so grateful. Now I remember because I had to be at work at 5 in the morning, so I would walk to work. And I remember I have to cross this bridge at like 5 in the morning. No cars, no noise, just the water running. Cold December day, and I'm like, what? I look up, I say, yes, this is freaking beautiful. Yes, yeah, I love this. Love it, love it, love it, love it. So I worked on that job for like 3 years, but I knew I wanted to be a personal trainer. I knew I wanted to work at fitness. I knew I wanted to do this. So search out, and none of the big clubs would give me the time of day. I couldn't walk a straight line. I was slurry. So my interviews weren't the best. So my friend says to me, she says, "Yeah, I'm going to work out at this club. Why don't you come train with me?" And I have a pretty good physique because I worked out for years and years in prison. That's all you do in prison, work out. That's what I did. And I remember, now I'm in a muscle t-shirt. And like, so usually where I went to interview, you do the tie, you look presentable. Now I'm there to work out. I spot the manager, big stocky guy, looks intimidating. I said, oh, maybe I won't go talk to him right now. But I seen how friendly he was. Grinning with a smile, handing people towels. I said, wow, this guy's great. So when he was on, I said, I built myself up. I said, I'm going to go for him. I'm going to go talk to him. So I approached him. He said, I have about 5 minutes. We can sit down and have a little chat. Well, that 5 minutes turned into like an hour and a half conversation. And he looked at me and said, can you start tomorrow? And this was before I told him about prison. I told my whole story. I just know I was ex-felon. I said, oh, shit, I said, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm gonna go for it. I'm going to tell him. And I tell him this. So without batting an eyelash, he looks at me and says, can you start tomorrow? I said to myself, I just told this guy I'm an ex-felon. And he looked at me and said, well, first of all, he said, thank you for being honest. Thank you for being up front with me. And second of all, he said, I just wish my mom, who passed away of alcoholism a couple of years prior to this, I just wish she was able to hear your story. She just might not drink anymore. And we became very close. So now, that night I go home and I get a phone call. And that's my just hired me. He said, my morning guy who opens my gym called in and he can't do it. And I'm an hour away. Would you mind doing it for me? I said, of course. I said, I don't know what I'm doing. He gives combination to his gym. Again, Trevor, I said to myself, this guy just gave an ex-felon.
That doesn't happen that doesn't happen hardly at all. There are so many reasons why he could have passed on you and you wouldn't have been able to blame him. Now this.
So now, when you join, our Boston Sports Club is a gym. When you join that gym, what's called a PFW, a private free workout. So if you join the gym, you get to have a training session. So the guy comes walking in, he's looking for the guy that replace him. And I said, well, I can sit down with you. I can help you. We sit down. He starts telling me how he has diabetes. He's about 80 pounds away, it was him this, and now I'm sweating. I'm inside. I don't want to show him I'm panicking. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do here? So I said, let's go have a little light workout. So we go to the floor, we have a little light workout. Now it's time to go back to our office, and it's time for me to sell him on a package. That's how it works. So I hear the menu, and he looks at it. He says, I'll take one of these 50 packs. Charge us $4,000. I I shit myself. I couldn't believe it. And now I keep my manager walk in. I said, excuse me for a second, sir. And I go out. I said, Jesus. I said, this guy wants to buy a 50 pack. He says, stop playing with me. He says, David. Like, yeah. He went in the room. He says, follow me. He went in the room. And he closed the deal like a champion. That guy who I sold that package to is still my client today. I
Wow.
trained him, his wife, his son, and his daughter. But anyway, David says to me, he says, that 50 pack has been out in Boston for about 4 months now. He says, you are the first person to sell it. How was that for your first day? I was in one train. I couldn't believe it. People, and that's what got me involved with this, because I knew people were getting inspired by presence, without really knowing my story, just by the energy in it. 'Cause I love it. I love firing people up. I love getting them going. I love that. I have clients that are 70 years old, 80 years old. Like I have an 85-year-old client. I have very diverse equipment at my gym. So I can lower it right down. He gets starting as a bench press. He's 85 years old. He says, I'm back on a football team. It's the feeling you get from working out and training. It's awesome. It really, I'll tell you, anybody struggles out there, your endorphins really, really, really make a difference in your body. When you're doing something good for yourself, especially in the morning, I like training in the morning, all of a sudden you feel good. Well, I just did my body good. So you're getting your day started off in a good. That's why they say it's good to make your bed in the morning. So you start your day off with doing something right. I don't follow that one.
And if you had a gym here in town, I'd join it tomorrow. It's something I've been dragging my feet on and refusing to do for so long, John. But I know at my age and with me putting on extra weight, some other little health issues, I'm like, I gotta stop eating what I eat and I gotta start working out. But I just cannot commit to it. I know you need to get out here and kick my ass and get me in there. Or fly me out to Massachusetts.
Don't wait for a doctor to tell you there's a problem. Don't wait for that moment.
Yeah.
Kick it in the mouth. There's a saying. You only live once. See, I don't agree with that saying. We only die once. So we live every day. Every morning, God lets us open our eyes. We open we're living. When that day comes and the eyes don't open, that's one time. See you later.
There's things that keep happening, conversations I keep hearing and having with people that just keep pushing me in that direction. But I'm so damn stubborn. But I know it'd make all the difference in the world, and it would be something I would really enjoy and thrive at. And with my addictive personality, it would be a healthy addiction, and it's a routine. I'm a routine guy. It's just I can't get over that initial how sore I feel after doing some push-ups and like my muscles tighten up and I can't even hardly walk. I'm like, if I can't get past that, and this is light work, I'm like, how am I ever gonna? It's all excuses and stuff that I put in my head. Don't have the time. I know it's gotta be something that happens. And maybe talking to you a little bit more, you can get me fired up and be motivational. You do motivational speakings as well. Let me ask you this, because this is big. How did not just being a great trainer is one thing, having a knack for it, it's almost coming natural to you. by a series of events, but also salesmanship has to be part of that as well, right? And how did that lead to titanium? What is titanium? And take us through all that.
Well, titanium, I'll tell you, while I was born, my manager who hired me decided to leave and open his own gym. And I was still at that sports club, so he left. He opened his own private one-on-one gym. And then he called me and he said, John, I want you to come work here. And we can do this. And so I went to him, and the place was beautiful. But it was Boston Sports Club was a big public gym. They did all the marketing for you. You didn't have to do a thing. You have to do any sales. Now it's a rinky dink in the hole in the wall, and you have to get your own people. You know? And you know, I almost didn't do it. Thank God I did. Thank God I did. You know, it's one thing. Like I said, travel. I'm a single dad, and if it was just me, then I would there wouldn't have been a question. But you know, I had a steady paycheck. I had my son who's dependent on me. You know, I'm open. Here you go. Come pay me. Don't work like that. But so I took the chance, and thank God I did. I had my clients at Boston Sports Club that were going to follow me. So I knew I had some clients, and I did it. And thank God I did it. You know, and then it wasn't long after that. David didn't want to do it no more. He wanted to get married and move to California with his wife, and yeah, a lights up all things on a bigger gym. And so it was either I leave or I take it over. So I bought it out, and I had about $18 to my name. My son went and lived with my sister down in Alabama, and I opened up my gym. The office was my bedroom. I had no money.
Wow.
And now I've been in business 13 years.
I mean, that's an act of faith right there. That's a leap of faith. But you knew that's what you wanted to do. Like, what else was your alternative at the time? I mean, this is your passion. You were good at it. People depended on you. You got a clientele. You enjoyed it. I mean, if it wasn't the gym and operating that, what was you going to do? Open a car wash or so? I mean, you really put all your cards in that. I mean, you didn't really have a backup plan. You just went with it. Look how it paid off.
But may I tell you something?
Yeah.
I hear my clients say, "Oh, I got to go to work tomorrow." I've never said that. I love going in with my clients. I love it. It's one-on-one. I sit there, I train them to talk. I know their whole problems. They know my problems. It's awesome. It really is. It's awesome.
Yeah, you ought to think about starting like a YouTube channel where you shoot videos from that gym, certain like exercises and working with some clients. And I mean, that might just, I could see that working, and I could see, you know, an extra draw that might come your way. Just, you never know. Don't count it out. I'm just saying, people do that a lot. Like, here's my gym. I'm a trainer here. Here's some people we work with. And I mean, people are looking for that stuff all the time. And with your personality and your passion and truthfulness, I mean, it's an attractive thing to be drawn to. Not necessarily just a physical trainer that's all like, dude, give us your all. Come on, you know. You got a personality that goes with it that can cater to a lot of different people, as you said, 80-year-olds, 20-year-olds, you know, maybe younger kids coming there trying to show you up.
I train a lot of couples. Like my client will bring his son, you know, train together, or my client will bring his daughter. His wife will bring his, you know, or the husband and wife will work out together. I love training couples. I love it. I've had clients say to me all the time, you know, we tried dancing, we tried cooking, we couldn't find anything we could do together.
Oh wow!
You know, and it's an hour they're spending together in the gym, pushing each other and doing something good. They wouldn't spend ever together. I would never spend that hour together. Never. And they know that they love it.
I would have never thought of that. So I mean, that's your gym, and I mean, I'd love for you to promote that as well and everything too. Is that in Cambridge?
Brookline.
Brookline.
It's
Okay, that's right.
above,
Um,
above.
let me ask you. Let's move on to this. These two names. Explain these names and the whole story behind it. I know I've read it, but I love this. This is a big part of the story. Jagger and Turbulence. What is that? What those names mean? Take us through the whole thing and SDP.
Uh, Silver Stars Project is now Mobility Dames of New England. You know, I was watching, I think it was Chronicle, and they were showing this dog and this person walking this dog instead of using a cane, they would use the dog as balance. I said, wow,
Hmm.
does that look awesome? And next day, my brother-in-law took me up there, and this is my first time there. And Jagger was about 3 months old. You know, there's 83 teams on the farm. They all play with them. And the dogs are named after a theme. Like Jagger was named after rock stars. His brother Bowie and Elvis. His sister Adele. I mean, his brother Bowie was my favorite. Bowie and Jagger were my favorite. But if you knew me growing up, I was the biggest Rolling Stones excellent. Mick Jagger's my idol. I mean, so my brother looked at the name tag on the jersey and said, "Oh my God, if you ever get this dog, it'll be a godsend." Unbelievable. And he ended up being, it's a volunteer farm, so you're up there all the time. I watched Jagger grow from 6 months old to when I got him was 15 months old. But you had no idea I was getting him. So, you know, when they match with the dog, you have to get acquainted with the dog. So you go back up the farm and you spend like 5 nights with him to get acquainted with him. Nothing else. Because they're already trained. They're perfect. Just to be acquainted with him. And the trainers told me, they said, as soon as Jagger catches that we left, he's gonna get nervous, he's gonna anxious. And so they screwed up the back door. And all of a sudden, you see Jagger going from room to room, looking out the window. And now he's in a full panic. I can't touch him. No, I can't even go now. The next morning, I told the trainer, I said, "Yeah, I'm telling you about my problem. Oh, I can't get." She says, "Oh," she says, "if you don't get acquainted, we don't match you. We'll just set you up for a dog." I said, "What?" I said, "Jagger, there's no way I'm leaving here about Jagger. No way." I go back to the house. I said, "Jagger, we're having a face-to-face buddy." So now it's about 2 in the morning. He's still not interacting with me. It's about 2 in the morning, and he's on his bed. I'm just sitting in my chair looking, and he gets up to go have a drink of water. So I dove down on his bed, and I laid there. And Jagger turned around, looked at me, and I said, "Well, buddy, I ain't moving." A few minutes later, he come by, sat next to me, at him a little bit. I said, "Wow." So now I get up, I go up to the master bedroom. About 2 minutes later, boom, boom, I hear it put, your brother, bed, put his big head on my lap, and that was it. He's my best friend. But Jagger, another thing, that when I got met him was May 2nd, they did him. I said, I said to the trainer, I said, "Why'd you pick May 2nd? He goes, "Oh, no reason." I go, "Well, it's my birthday." They gave me Jagger on my birthday.
I didn't know that.
Unbelievable. But Jagger, about a year after this, he got very sick. Actually, it was right after COVID. He got very sick. And he had a blood disorder where his platelets and his bleeding to death. So we saved his life. He did 5 nights in intensive care. We saved his life. And I had to retire him and make him my pet. But I couldn't take care of him. I don't really make a good service shoot. I did service dogs. So while he was really, after a few days, while he was when he got out of the hospital, we went back and forth time so they could take care of him. And so when I would go up and visit him, turbulence would be in the room with him.
Mm-hmm.
Every time, what a privilege is there. And finally, I said, why is, well, we want to make sure that turbulence bonds the Jagger when you're taking him home. And so I have turbulence as my working dog, and I have Jagger as my pet. I have such a great, now I love stories. Jagger, I retired him, but my mom, who has dementia, leaving me. And I would never know that Jagger became her son's dad. Just start crying, having an emotional breakdown for no apparent reason. Jagger gets right up, puts his big 200 pounds, puts his big head on his lap, and she forgets totally why she was saying. It's in the book. You see the picture in the book of Jagger and my mom. It's awesome.
So I mean, in his own, in a certain way, he still is that service dog. I mean, he brought so much service and such an impact to your mom. I mean, it's funny how bad things seem to happen, but then just go on for greater things. It was you probably couldn't measure how important it is to your mom to have Jagger there. And Jagger still, you know how prideful Great Danes can be. So he's like, I'm still a service dog. I ain't retired.
He didn't want to pass the torch. But the first day when I remember putting the vest on Turbulence to leave, I remember Jagger getting very pissed off with that. He wasn't best on him. But then he realized he gets to go back to bed on those cold mornings because I have a gym. I leave here at 5 in the morning. And he gets to go back under the covers. He doesn't open his eyes no more. He loves where he is.
I love that story. And you want to mention the name of that? It's SDP, like the name of that place again, and where they're located. And is there any other ones throughout the country?
Well, Service Dog Project is in Ipswich. We just changed Ipswich, Mass. But we just changed their names. We're now Mobility Danes of Northern. Mobility, it really connects more. It tells you what they are. Service Dog Project was a good name, but it really didn't tell you it was a Dane. It was for mobility, and it's such a great organization. We help all first responders and veterans. Veterans are at first priority.
Sure.
And I've met so many, because it's a volunteer farm, I've met so many great veterans. Here's a story. Now, a kid, he was about 12 years old, and he has multiple sclerosis. He walks with those big metal canes. And I met as a volunteer farm, before he got his dog, I was up there. And he says, John, do you realistically give me one of these dogs? I said, it's not if, you're definitely getting one. We're going to take care of you, my friend. Now he has one. His parents can't stop right now. It changed his life. His appearance, his confidence. He walks down that school hall now. He don't wear those big canes, no social life. He has a 200-pound Great Dane walking. Not only the school, they said everybody in the whole town will see him. He's a movie star now. He changed that kid's life. Back in the day, I don't know, back in the day, kids weren't that the nicest kids in high school and grammar school.
A lot of them still aren't, but if you're walking down the hallway with the big old Great Dane, you're going to get a little bit of respect.
Oh, yeah.
And that had to do so much for it. It's just his self-confidence and self-worth. And that's just tremendous. There needs to be so many more of them. I hope they just keep growing. So impactful for you. I mean, if they never came, if you didn't hear about them, I mean, I think you'd still be okay and you'd get around and everything. But Jagger and Turbulence are so instrumental in the second half of your life.
Unbelievable.
They took you from recovery to stability. Really,
they changed lives.
Yeah. I could.
Really. And Trav, I am so honored and proud that the proceeds of our book are going to help them. You know,
Yeah,
they, I watch these animals save lives, pain,
absolutely.
lives. You know,
Um,
a veteran comes back with injuries.
yeah,
Not only are they going to get the physical support they need, but the mental support they need. They're not going to be alone no more. They're not going to be alone. That dog is going to be their friend. And my dog Turbulence is my buddy. I'm never alone. He got his eyes on me all the time. So
protected. Now,
I'm,
now he's your enforcer and bodyguard and all that, in a good sense. Um, let's if you don't mind, let's talk about your kids, and granddaughter as well, and how your story, struggles, success, happiness, how it's impacted them, and what do they mean to you?
unbelievable. Well, I had two dogs before I got shot. So I missed a lot of the life of prison and mixed up doing things. But you know something, Trav? They never once threw that in my face. They're my best friends. They're awesome. They're awesome, awesome, awesome mothers. I mean, my oldest daughter, Brianna, she lives in Jupiter, Florida, and she has three children. You know, my two grandsons and my granddaughter, Elrose, who's my little princess. Then I have a daughter who lives in Worcester, Mass. She's a registered nurse, and she has my other grandson, Julius. And after prison, I became a father, and I have my 21-year-old son Matthew, who is still with me. He's awesome. What a blessing of a kid. Oh,
You
oh,
said
it makes
you said he would get up, no problem, taking the trash out at 4 a.m.
Crab never hear the word no lie. I call and depend on him all the time. Never ever, and I'm serious. At 4 in the morning, she could out. Never do I hear no daddy. I hear coming all the time. It's unbelievable. He's great. And, and I truly believe it comes from animals. I'm telling you, Trev. Like he loves animals. Like I remember I bring him to the beach as a kid, and his friend caught a snail. He was ready to squish it. And I remember Matthew saying to him, "You hurt that snail." And he made that kid put the snail down. And I mean, seriously, he loves life.
Wow.
It's awesome. I'm so
Um,
blessed. No,
you,
I'm so blessed.
you
No,
think you think he'll
it,
make a good
it,
veterinarian?
it's the tip to me, Trav. You know, how could it be so happy after everything that you've lost? And I said, God has given me so much more, so much pleasure in life than what's ever been taken from me. You know, I love my life.
Yeah, he's at college studying biology and possibly move on to be a veterinarian. Do you think he'll get that and excel
Oh,
at it?
yeah. Well, he will, but it's very tough. He's not really into classes too much, right? So it's a little struggle for him.
Good.
But
Fair enough. What else do I got for you? Um, you feel this was big to me. I don't know why it stood out as much as it did, but would you do you feel you're keeping one of your last promises that you made to your dad by um, looking after your mom as he asked you to do? And
I
not
got
not such an easy task, really. I mean,
Trev. He asked me on his website to look after him. So, yeah. And my mom is awesome. she is such a, she could ask me the same question 100 times, and every time I'll smile and answer her. You know, she she'll, she She'll never feel uncomfortable around me. Not in this house. She feels so comfortable where she is. She's around Jagger 24 hours a day. Jagger's with her all the time. All the time, somebody.
So, you think you passed on a lot of the qualities that your dad instilled in you?
Oh my good God. When I know my dad is proud. I know he is. I know he's proud of what's transpiring, how our family's doing, being there for mom. So I know he's proud of that. I know, Matthew missed out on an awesome friend. My father would have been his buddy. He is so proud of that raising Matthew the way he did. The way he raised me is exactly the way I'm raising Matthew. Matthew just don't see any bad things come to him. You don't see. He's not going to go up and see the illegal things I'm doing. He's going to only see good. That's all he's going to do. If at age 12, I learned from going from 12 to 15, maybe if I didn't learn the legal stuff and get addicted to that lifestyle, what it is.
This is the last question I got for you, John. I mean, I think I got some other ones rolling through my head, but I don't think I'll let them go and just ask you this final question. What all do you think you'd say to the man who shot you if you were face to face with him today? What do you think you'd be doing if you wasn't shot that day?
God, I forgave that guy instantly. I've been more mad. Seriously, I've been more mad at the guy that cut me off from the bird than I was at him.
Wow.
Chad, it wasn't like I was crossing the street and got hit by a bus. Why me? Now, I was playing with fire. This guy wasn't shooting John Carter. He was shooting a problem. He was shooting me personally. I was mixed up in that. What do you think is going to happen? You deal with misfits. Degenerates, gamblers, drug addicts, drug dealers. What do you think is going to happen?
I mean, that's a heck of a point. I mean, I know you couldn't have expected that to happen, but that lifestyle and what you were doing, I mean, you knew it came with the territory.
He did not have to do it either. That's a thing that he didn't have to do. I was more of living off my dad's last name. I really didn't have to do anything. I had a reputation. I just took over. So this guy was going off reputation. He was scared. But if you knew me, I would have stopped that. I wouldn't have done it, man. My father always taught me you could scam, but you bring a guy's arm, you said, how they going to work and pay you? It's useless. It's just the violence. My father wasn't like that.
Yeah.
And the guy really didn't have to. He could have, maneuvered his way out. He wasn't going to get hurt. I wasn't there to get hurt. He really did into his house. But it was a disease. When you're a drug addict or a gambler, you're at the bottom line. You're fighting for your life. And that's what he thought.
He wasn't shooting you; he was shooting the problem. I mean, that's how I think an addict would look at anything. Just get rid of the problem, no matter the consequences.
Yeah.
Incredible. That level of forgiveness is rare. Let me ask this one last question though, because it's amazing to me. It's miraculous in a way. A very tragic, violent event. The taking the gunshot to the head. Everything that transpired and you went through afterwards led you to where you're at right now today, feeling how you feel. Which is an example of how God could take something meant for bad and turn it into good. He's had his hand over your entire life. And I know there's been loss and tragedies, but if you just would have collected from him that day, say, oh, here's the money and here, be on your way. if that shot didn't happen that day, I mean, where do you think you'd be? What do you think you'd be doing? You think you'd be in prison? You think you'd be in a back alley somewhere?
Yeah, that saved my life, you know. And I'm gonna tell you another story about how off this guy was. That this him shooting in the head wound to his home was Plan B. His Plan A was me and my partner. We met him at his work. He owned a company. He worked on big backhoes and a big dump truck, big machinery. And but we was up there early, so he couldn't do what he wanted to. But the police told me with Plan A, he had a big ditch in the back of his company dug out. It was a Papa's fault to drive the car right into this, cover up, call it a day. They still be looking for us. They still be looking for us. Hey, but you're dealing in that business. You gotta, you have to run to nice people. Not many nice guys are doing that kind of stuff.
Wow. He went with Plan B. That's crazy. John, this has been an honor, to be honest with you. I don't use that word lightly. We got a little more in depth with everything. I absolutely appreciate it. And I hope that after this, we have conversations. I might hit you up now and then for a motivational talk, man, a pep talk. Is there anything else in your story that I didn't ask, that we didn't cover, that you'd want to share out?
You know what? My story is my story, but everybody has a story. You all have your own story. You can get over it. You can fight it, you can get over it. Everybody has a problem. And our drink is not going to fix that problem. And you can do it. That's what I have to say on that. A little inspiration. And you have my links. Any of your fan base want to reach out to me, more than happy to have an old chat. More than happy. Oh, I love inspiring and helping. So
I think it's incredible that you have this level of deep happiness. I'd say peace, joy, passion, doing what you're doing. After the loss, and I mean, it's hard for me to fathom having three brothers, and they're all gone, but here you still are. You got responsibilities. You got kids and grandkids that depend on you, and you got your life, and God has pulled you through everything to be who you are today, and how you are, and that's very commendable and absolutely respected. I just wanted to say that.
Trav, the audience, the views on Amazon are crucial for a no-name independent author. It helps your algorithm on Amazon really pick up. So if you want to help with this mission, with this cause, and help the fallen addict, a review from you on Amazon would be $1 million. And thank you for listening to me, guys.
That's a tremendous book. Triggered to Change, A Life Full of Turbulence by John Carter. I had to get it. I mean, I love talking with people that have books, because I just get into it more. And yeah, I'll put the link it's on Amazon. Anybody that knows Amazon can get it, but I'll still put the link up there to it. And he said part of the proceeds goes to help those mobility Danes, for veterans and people with some disabilities and whatnot, which is very kind of you to do. I mean, a lot of people don't do that. They just take whatever they can get, and you'd be entitled to that. There'd be no shame in it, but it just shows who you are, wanting to give back and stay humble. John Carter, you're off the spot. I absolutely appreciate it, man. And I hope I made a friend, and I stay in contact with people that do these. Sometimes people move on, but there's been plenty that I stay friends with and talk to on a regular basis. You're a member of God-Based Recovery, so please share any content, any videos, any lives you want to do onto that page. It's got a bunch of people that I think would be inspired, not only by this, but your presence on that page. And I hope we stay in contact. And I ask if you feel like it, pray us out if you would, sir.
We'll do the Our Father's eyes, all right? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. Amen.
Amen. Brother, thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for being real and truthful. Much respect to you and all your kids and extended family and friends. I appreciate it, man.
God, thank you. You have a great night.
You too. John Carter, everybody. Go to Amazon, get this book. You will not be disappointed. This is awesome. Awesome. You'll hear some more things in there that you didn't hear tonight. And like I said, some of the proceeds go to, mobility dogs, Great Danes, helping people with some disabilities and veterans especially. A great guy. Thank you for your time, John.
Thank you, Todd. You have a great night.
You too.